Well, we have a few people coming in and growing, so that's good. I'm glad
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
word out, and I mean, I know the timing is weird, as you said, but of course, because of the time difference, we have to make it work. It's about like 8:30
It's 8:30 here, yeah.
Saudi Arabia now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, again, thank you for joining us. Welcome to our very first live. You know, I wanted to start by sharing a quote that was said by Albert Einstein, who said that there is opportunity in the midst of chaos, and I find that to be very true because in the midst of this pandemic that's going on, I have the opportunity now to, sit and talk to you over this platform. If it was any other way, you know, probably would have to be doing a bunch of rescheduling because you're up and down flying, as well as, we would be busy doing something and then trying to work out the whole time difference as well because many of us
Right.
would have been in school in a class now, and then the other persons would have been at work or, doing their regular day-to-day
Yeah.
stuff. So, you know,
Well, as because at the end of it, I think you have the ability to save it and to make it accessible
yeah,
um, for at least 24 hours. I think that's how it works. And I think you can even save the whole thing to your device and then post it on your YouTube or something. That's what I've seen a couple of people
definitely,
do as well. So
definitely.
so yeah, we can try that and hope it
Yeah,
works
so
out so that more.
I'm actually going to do that because I hear that idea with me as well. And once you're finished here, I'm going to save it and then upload it to the YouTube channel so that
Right,
other persons can see it later on, and then
right.
benefit from it as well.
Indeed,
So
indeed.
for those who are curious, the interview today is pretty much to discuss your journey to where you are now as a pilot. I believe it can be beneficial and more so inspirational to those who are listening because as I know it, you took a complete 360 in your life and started aviation late.
Yeah.
Um, but even though you started late, it's fair to say that you have done pretty well for yourself. You're a successful pilot as we know it. You have had experience with AirJ, Etihad, all these top airlines in the world. So, a lot of persons, especially the young ones, think that, oh, if I don't become a pilot by 26 or 27, like our very dear friend Marlon is, who is doing excellently well
Right,
now with Delta Airlines, it
right.
doesn't make any sense. But then that wasn't the case with you. You started, I believe it was in your 30s, right? And you made it happen, and you're pretty much living the pilot's dream, as we know. We know it's not glamorous. It's not always
Not
glamorous, but you're still flying modern airplanes. You have pretty much seen the world. You have benefited from the industry in many ways as well. So, it's really to hear that story from you, and then hopefully somebody can find some inspiration from it. But before we get into the meat of that, tell
okay.
the people, a little about yourself. Like we know you're Jamaican born, of course, always wearing the brand Jamaica, as I can see from your shirt and the hat and everything. So it's quite obvious that Jamaican born, love Jamaica like everybody else. And but tell us a little bit about yourself. Like what parish were you born in?
Okay. The 90% of what you just said is true. I was actually not born in Jamaica.
Really?
I was actually born in the UK, but I didn't spend very long there.
Okay.
My parents met up there and had me, and then they left shortly after. So
Oh,
but I've certainly spent most of my life in Jamaica. Like I say, love Jamaica. Wish I could be there right now.
sure.
Um, but yeah, so I wasn't actually born in Jamaica, but you know,
Okay.
raised in Kingston from 1970 70 onwards.
Okay.
Um, in my so I was born in the UK, spent maybe a year there of my of my life there. My parents moved to to Canada and was there for about 4 years, and then we came to Jamaica finally.
Okay. All right. What schools you attended when you were here?
Mona Primary up in Mona, and then spent a year at JC. Left JC after first farm, went to Campion, and did my O-levels and CXCs there. Spent a year at what is now UTech, formerly known as Cast, doing computers there. And then I was a computer engineer for 15 years after that. before I actually started flying.
Okay. And what kind of hobbies? I know you're a Subaru man. I know you're a drummer. But other than that, what other hobbies do you have?
What thing you want me to do? I used to I used to race cars actually. I used to race at Dover back in the day. In a Suzuki. As you know, music has always been a part of my life because my mother was a music teacher, so I was exposed to music from very early.
Okay.
And got on to playing percussion, Congo drums at first, and then started playing big drum set after that.
Okay, I got you.
I met my wife shortly before Cast, but we didn't get married until many years after. We've been married going on 17 years now, and we have two sons. One big 22-year-old who just graduated from college over the weekend, and then I have a 15-year-old who is currently at JC.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So what was life like before aviation? Yes, you said that you were into computers and spent 15 years.
I was a PC engineer back in the day, from like the late 80s until I started flying. General repairs, optimization, little networking here and there. I worked for a couple of different companies. I actually used to work for Jamaica Broilers for a number of years. And then I did some freelance stuff and then I started flying, and I just kind of gave up everything, everything computers once I started flying. Nobody call me to try and fix your PC. I can't do it.
So when was it that you actually did get into aviation?
2001, just before 9/11.
2001.
Yeah.
Okay. Was Wings around back then?
That is where I did my PPL. Wings was still around.
Wings was still.
Yeah, my instructor was Nick Shaw, who's now a captain at Cal at Caribbean Airlines, as well as Gerald Ford did some of my early training as well. So Wings was around that time. It was around that time that CATC was starting up. Captain Stewart was just starting up CATC at the time. As a matter of fact, he's the one who gave me my first from the ground up, his own personal copy that date back to 1970 something.
Oh, the book from the ground.
That book from the ground up. He was the one who gave me that the Bible, as many refer to it as. Because I've actually known Stewie from back in the days when we used to fool around with CB radio. He was an avid CB as was I. So that's how I knew him, and he was very helpful in when I was getting started. I would have started with him had he fully set up the school, but like I said, he was just starting it up. As a matter of fact, it was in the middle of my training that he actually started our shot. Yeah, around the middle of my training. I'd already started training and it didn't make sense to move at that point. But by the time I had finished my PPL, he had, CATC was operating and students were learning to fly back then.
Okay. So is it someone that brought you into aviation, like a friend just took you on a flight and they say, this is what I want?
Well, it's like this. I had wanted to go into aviation from I left school. I tried to go the JDF route actually, because my father had links in there, and because I used to play squash. Oh, I played squash as well. That's another sporting
Another
event
hobby, yeah.
that I did when I was younger, and I represented Jamaica back in those days as a junior.
Okay.
So as you may or may not know, I mean, people who play squash in JDF like Sterling and them, and they know that squash is a big thing, or amongst some of the guys there, and a lot of them used to play at the clubs and stuff. So I knew a lot of them, a lot of the senior guys who even those guys who are there now probably only hear about. So anyways, I tried to get into the JDF, but I didn't have the qualifications to
Okay.
go into the officer program at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't, and that was the reason I was joining that, because I wanted to fly. So
Good.
that didn't happen, unfortunately. So it kind of got put on the back burner because that was the only way that I saw being able to afford it
Okay.
back then. So I kind of put that on the back burner. I ended up going going to cast after that, and then
Okay.
everything kind of got put on the back burner. Come
Mm-hmm.
back around to 2000 or 2001. I was very good friends with Jason Morris and Martin Sutherland, both of whom went through the army route while and started
Okay.
playing. They were both at Air Jamaica at the time when before I started, and me and Jason were in a band together as well.
Okay.
And so he met my parents, and my mother said, "Oh, he's a pilot. Oh, Richie wanted to be a pilot back in the day." And Jason kind of looked at me and
Mm-hmm.
said, you know, "Is it something that you still want to do?" And I was like saying to myself, "Look, Bridget, I'm 35, going on 36 years old. I'm going to start flying now, try to change career at this stage of my life."
Yeah. It-
I didn't know, I didn't know how feasible it was. But
Yeah.
what you may remember is that back then, this again before 9/11,
Mm-hmm.
aviation booming, whole heap of there was a big. This was this was before the 65-year-old rule came in. So retirement age at that time was still 60,
Okay.
right? So there was a looming pilot shortage because of
Mm-hmm.
retirements worldwide, right?
Yeah.
Um, Air Jamaica was hiring pretty regularly around that time, and this
Yeah.
was when Butch Stewart by
Running
Woodford
things.
Airplane, and airplane left, right, and center. So they were hiring pretty regularly around that time.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was a good time to get into it. He
Okay.
said,
Yeah.
Jason was like, when I was, kind of on the fence about it, Jason, like, "Look here, man, people coming in, you know, once a year or once every couple of years, you need to try and do it now before it's really too late."
Yeah. Yeah.
And then my mother encouraged me and helped me out financially with getting it done, because that was the other big thing.
That's good.
Um, but she helped me out, so I'm indebted to her as well. Yeah, and I got started, and I like I said, I dropped everything. I told my instructor Nick Shaw, like I said to you, I said, "Look, I'm not going to be your typical student where we fly at evening time or early morning. I'm going to be here every day, every day. I don't have no time to waste, right?" If
Yeah.
I want to get into Asia Jamaica, I want to get in at an age where they're not going to look at me and say, "You're too old for this."
I will.
So I did my
Yeah.
PPL in what, 4 months? May, June, July,
Okay.
August, September, going on 5 months. I completed my PPL. At that
Okay.
time, now I decided that we decided that we're going to do my instrument single commercial, multi commercial in Florida, because it would
Okay.
get done faster. Because at the time, getting PPL is one thing. Going for your commercial instrument with the restrictions that Jamaica have inherently
Yeah.
does not it doesn't get done quickly.
Yeah.
So we started researching schools in Florida, and so after I completed my PPL, and I did all of this in secret almost, because the only person who knew I was flying when I started learning was my mother, because she was paying for it partly. my my wife,
Yeah.
well, girlfriend at the time,
Yeah.
and and Jason, as Jason Morris, Martin Sutherland. These are the two Air Jamaica friends of mine that helped me get into it. And maybe one or two other people. My father didn't know, my siblings did not know, my friends did not know. So when I completed the PPL now, we made arrangements to go to well, my plan was to go to what is now called Florida Aviation Academy in Pompano Beach. At the time, and I think they still do, them have a 141 program, which is, and it was accelerated, 0 to 200 hours in 3 months.
Okay. That's pretty quick.
It is pretty quick, but it's very intense as well.
Yeah.
And everybody was, I was sold on it because I'm all about time, right? So I was sold on it and was willing to try it. Jason and Martin, however, were not sold on it because none of the Air Jamaica people had ever gone there, never heard of it, right? Everybody had either gone to private professional flight training in executive or Wayman, or I think there was another school at Hollywood. What airport in where Wayman based?
Wayman is at
anyway, North Perry.
North Perry.
Right. So it's either North Perry or the PFT at FXC.
Yeah.
So when I'm hear about this school that claimed to do it in 3 months in Pompano Beach, they were very skeptical. So anyway, so we made the arrangements. I went to Florida. Martin and Jason actually followed me because they kind of paid for the ticket. They were Air Jamaica pilots at the time. So we went to all of these schools, and landed in Miami. This was when Air Jamaica was still flying to Miami. Landing in Miami, went to Opalaka, checked out a school there, went to North Perry, checked out the school there, went to FXC and checked out the school there. And then finally, after getting all that information, some of which was a little sketchy, we finally went to the school that I had intended to go to and sat down with the director because me and him was in conversation. Bear in mind now, this is I was in conversation with them before 9/11 happened. After 9/11 happened is when we actually got there. So it was still new. The whole TSA thing was still new and everything. So that year, and I just put Martin and Jason in front of them, and me and I sit back at the back of the room, and I say, you need to convince them why I should come here, right? Yeah. And he basically laid out the entire plan, how them do this thing. Now, bear in mind that I already had my PPL now, so it wouldn't be as stressful for me, but it's still a short-term thing, the way they run their program. And he sat down and he laid out the entire profile of the program to them, and the two of them look at each other, then look at me and say, well, this looks like the place. So I actually spent around 3 months there. You know, I didn't do the 0 to 200, but I did like from 60 to 200 there. Did all my ratings and everything. Came back to Jamaica, converted my license at Wings again. And then through another friend who I knew through motor racing, who you may know, Jimmy Juan. Jimmy was working at Airlink at the time. This was around the time when they had their, I think they had just gotten, I was about to get their caravan. Okay. So I called Jimmy, and Jimmy arranged an interview with Howard Levy, who was the owner of Airlink. I started there as a trainee. I worked there for a full month. Now, prior to that, I had already gone to Airways to talk to Mr. Reed, because I know that almost, the portion of Air Jamaica pilots went through Airways, right?
Yes.
From senior to junior. So that is where I knew I wanted to work. One, it was in Kingston, and two, Air Jamaica pilots end up. I mean, anybody who is at Airways normally end up at Air Jamaica.
Jamaica, yeah.
So I went and I had actually an interview with Mr. Reed. It went okay, but he was looking for pilots at the time. At the time, he had Victor McFarlane was there at the time. Alice Tabois was there at the time. um, Lesmore. No, Lesmore was actually with me at Airlink before,
Okay. Yeah,
and
yeah.
then he and I actually joined Airways together. Anyway, so I spent about a month at 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 Airlink, and then Airways came calling. As a matter of fact, Airways came calling 2 weeks into my job at Airlink and said, you know,
Yeah.
Robert James was the
Ready for
chief
you.
pilot. Yeah, man, Robert James was the chief pilot at the time. I said, Mr. Reed wants to see you.
Yeah.
So I went and I did a farm flight, a kind of assessment flight in Delta Kilo
Yeah.
with Victor McFarlane at the time.
Yeah.
We went to Baskerville and back, and he signed me off. And then Mr. Reed dragged me into Delta Yankee, the tail dragger, and said, come learn to fly a
Detail,
real
yeah.
airplane. Right? So he and I went
Yeah.
up in Delta Yankee. This was some holy power rains that fall around by where them shoot. And he wanted to go survey out there. So him take Delta Yankee, fuel it up and say, you're left seat. So that was my
Okay.
first experience
That's
in a
Chris
tail
Reed
dragger.
flying with
Eh?
you. You said that's Chris Reed
Tell us.
flying with you.
Yes. But
The veteran. Yeah.
yeah, man, the veteran Christopher Reed, yeah, but the one in the same. So we did that and came back and he said, all right, well, whenever you're ready. So I said, boy, I just get the job at Earlink. Let me go back and talk to them. And by then I had already packed up half of my life into a vehicle and drive and go move. Leave my wife at the time now
Yeah.
to go down there. And spent a month there and move right back. And I was at Earlink. I was at Airways for 4 years before Air Jamaica.
Okay.
And then so I thought,
And that was in the Airpac Express.
that was Airpac Express days, yeah.
Yeah.
So the
So tell us a little
206
bit
and the
about that.
182s.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that time at Airways, because of course you'd spend 4 years flying as I said, the 182s, the 206s, but then that was back then when Jamaica had a lot of airstrips, flying the bank runs, when the whole technology
Actually,
was at the banks.
well, actually, yeah, we're doing the bank runs, but we didn't have all of the airstrips that you're referring to. I actually got there too late to be flying into places like Marlborough, Silent Hill,
Yeah.
and these places. All there was when I got there, they had already closed the Puerto Rico and all of them. There was only the Baskerville, Ken Jones, Negril, as non-international airports. So and Kirkby, we flew into Kirkby as well. So yeah, but Kirkby is really the only airport or airstrip that not everybody flew into.
Okay.
But yeah, there was the bank runs, the early morning runs. You know how it went. You had the early shift where one plane go east, the other plane go west, and come back midday and then do it all again in the afternoon. So it was a good experience. It was really good experience.
Yeah.
Good weather flying. You have to have a certain size cojones to fly cargo, because as Mr. Reed always says, bags don't care whether or not you pack them on top of each other. Bags don't know nothing about weather. So when the mission needs to be done, the mission needs to be done. So, we did. Yeah. We had to do things that the airlinks and the Timiers would never dream of doing, especially with passengers on board. So that was really good experience for me. That was really good experience. In fact, it years ago, John Michael, who is currently at JDF now, took me on a flight in I don't know if it was Bravo Alpha or one of CATC's planes.
Yeah, with John Michael, yeah.
Yeah, and I think everything kind of came flooding back, and there was a little deck. There's a bit of weather, The clouds were kind of low, not seriously low, but nothing that he would ever attempt.
Yeah.
So I wanted. He was flying me to Mobi and back. So I wanted to go north coast and say, boy, the cloud them kind of looking low, kind of look low. I was like, all right, maybe not stress him out, maybe not stress him out.
Yeah,
And as we continue to reach Worthy Park side,
yeah,
and I said, and I looked to the north, and I said, well, what holy past space there, man? What are you talking about?
yeah.
He said, boy. That's what kind of I have
Pilot
control.
safe. Young pilot playing it safe.
Yeah, which is understandable. But you know, we're talking about the threshold of what you
What
can
is
or cannot deal with
unfortunately,
based
yeah,
on your experience level, you know. Anyway,
yeah,
but that was a fun little flight. Kim
yeah,
can tell you about it.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
But that's good though. I mean,
So
I
Airways
can tell
a
from
really good
the
experience.
airport you did build good experiences, as you said.
Yeah, man.
Which I mean, a
I
lot
came
of
out of,
pilots, including I have,
yeah, yeah. And it's unfortunate that that is the state of general aviation in Jamaica right now. There's little or no opportunity for young pilots in Jamaica right now. Everybody can get to a certain point. They may even complete the
yeah,
training. But what happens after that? You know, few jobs out there. Cal only hiring, once every 4 years, it look like,
yeah.
So and the other little operations with the Timirs or the Tara couriers or those guys, you know, jobs are already filled and there's no movement. So it's
True,
difficult for guys like you and others who are training now to find
true.
something, after their training is complete, which is why a lot of them end up going away. And
That's
for
true.
those who have the ability to do that, well, good for them.
Hmm.
But it
That's
but
true.
it rough out there for a young Jamaican pilot who do have papers, you
That's
know.
true. But one of the good things I must say with the industry is the community. So I heard you mention Lesmore Samuels earlier, who you had joined Airways with the same time that he had. But his
Right.
person, he and the Dr. Meeks and the Christopher Reed, who are up until this day have been contributing in their own little way. Whenever they can,
Yeah.
take somebody up flying, whoever has a license and needs to get a little 1 hour here or there just to even stay current.
Yeah.
Especially Meeks, who took me under his wing and said, "Hey, come, let's go do some flying." The plane never leaves, and he doesn't call me and say, let's go. Same for
Right.
Lesmore, who would have known the situation and say, hey, let's go flying. Let's go get this mission done. Same with Chris Reed. If Chris Reed knows that there's an airplane going out and knows that I need the hours, would call and say, Sam, go with this plane. And it has been very beneficial for me flying with these guys because of a lot of the stuff that I've learned. I have learned the basics in flight school, how to do it by the book. But everyday
Right.
flying sometimes is not done by the book, especially with weather and things like that. I'm
Yeah.
grateful to persons like those, including Justin Reed as well, Mr. Reed's son. I've flown with all of them and I've
Yeah.
learned
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot. I bet because of it. So as bad as the industry is right now, the general aviation community, we still have, the pilots who will come back and give back in any little way. I mean, you're not in Jamaica
Yeah.
now, but this is your little way, just speaking to us and everybody else that's listening. This is your little contribution to tell your story, on how you got into aviation. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, man.
after your Air Park days now, then you transition to Air Jamaica. Am I correct?
Correct. Correct. I actually interviewed for Air Jamaica 2 times, failed on both occasions, um, for one reason or another. I think I interviewed. When I say fail, I mean, you have X amount of spaces and you have this many pilot, right? Vying for this amount of space.
Sure.
So it's just a question of experience. And I, when I first applied, I had maybe 1,000 hours, if I had 1,000 hours. Um, because I was recently out. I mean, I just joined Airways. I joined Airways with what? I guess not even 500 hours. You know,
Okay,
I left Airways with 2,000 hours, however, right?
that's
Um,
good.
but yeah, so it's just a matter of timing and experience, you know. So they had one bunch in, I think it was 2002. Tried again in 2004. I didn't get through with them either. Well, actually, half of the batch that was hired in 2004 didn't get through because a lot of the guys who you see out there now um, joined with me in 2006. As a matter of fact, I was one of two people who were in my batch in 2006 that should have started in 2004, right? But they canceled the hiring. What they hired about, I guess they had 16 people, and they said they're going to train these 8 now, and they're going to train these 8 in 3 months. And when the 3-month time came around, they had stopped the hiring. So those guys ended up having to go back to their old jobs. You know, myself, Andre Folks, Kira Solomon, a lot of those guys who are now flying elsewhere now, whether it be Cal or overseas, you know, joined with me. And the only reason that I got in was because 2 people who they had recalled. My understanding is that 2 people who had got recalled, you know, turned it down. So I got that space.
Okay.
Right? So everybody else that was in the batch were hired from before. So they were just being recalled now. So, all right, we're ready for you now. And 2 people didn't turn up, and then I got one of the spots. So that's how I finally got in, because you know I had interviewed a couple years before.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's how I got in.
And what was that experience like at Air Jamaica?
Fantastic. I mean, my whole dream of becoming a pilot was to fly for Air Jamaica. So that was a dream job right here. You know, you go through you go through training. You know, training went well. Line training. You know, you always have some of the hiccups here and there, but it generally went okay. And I got 3 years out of it before everything went to crap in 2009 2010. And then you know I got, because I was at the bottom of the seniority list. They needed to lose 6 people, and I got caught up in that 6. You know.
The 6. Okay.
So I mean, some of those guys got hired back, I believe, as time went on, when the whole Caribbean Airlines transition took place. But we got laid off in October 2009.
Okay.
So that was difficult. The upside to that for me is that, again, Jason Morris and Martin Sutherland had already, by the time I got into Air Jamaica, they were also part of the big exodus that took place in 2005.
Okay.
When a lot of guys, when you know the government and UDC and Vin Lawrence and that whole fiasco was taking place, a lot of people left, and they had left, and they had gone to Etihad. So they went to Etihad in 2005. I got into Air Jamaica in 2006. But anyway, it run, I think it was 2008, early to middle, about September 2008, they encouraged me to come to Abu Dhabi to visit and to check out the place and maybe to apply. No, I didn't want to leave Jamaica. I had no desire to leave Jamaica. But, you know, you kind of see the writing on the wall, you kind of see what is happening.
Yeah.
So I went. I took my wife with me, because if I was going to go, she was going to be going as well. So she had to kind of like the place too. So both of us went for a visit in 2008, spent a week.
Yeah.
I didn't really like it, to be very honest with you, when I first went. But at the end of it, I said, you know what, you fix your attitude, because this might be your future if things go wrong. So I went and I did an assessment in, I believe it was November of that year. Got selected, got put in a pool. I expected to start in 6 months. I ended up not starting until January of 2010. So this is now after I've been laid off from Air Jamaica. Now I don't have any work, and Etihad is not telling me when they are planning on taking me. So, you know, so I spent about a month and a half in limbo, not knowing what's going on. But anyway, they finally called in, what was it, mid-November, to say, okay, your start date is January 2010. So that's when I started there. And I spent 7.5 years there.
Okay. Yeah. And that's where you got your captaincy.
That's where I upgraded. So I upgraded 3.5 years after that, yeah. So
That's
I
pretty.
flew, I joined flying 320.
Mhm.
After a year, I went on the 330. After a year again, I went on the 340. And then, and
Yeah,
then, so it's like you said, flying all over the place. And
yeah,
then in 2014 is when I upgraded on the 320 again. And
yeah.
then eventually, after about a year or two, I went and was captain on 330 as well.
Okay. Were you captain on the 340 as well?
No, I wasn't captain on
The
340.
first.
By then, they were starting the transition to 380,
Okay.
and they were slowing down the 340. Not at the point when I left. They hadn't started getting rid of them yet. But I was only on the 330 for a year before I left anyway. So, but like I said, the 380s started coming in, and a lot of the 340 guys were going 380.
Okay.
So it became evident that they were going to slow down the work on the 340 and eventually transition them out, which finally happened a couple of years ago.
Okay. Well, seeing that you flew the 330 and the 340, that would mean you would have ventured out to all over the world because those are long distance wide body aircraft. So
Yeah.
my question would have been, where are some of the places that you have been to? But I guess it's easier to ask you, where have you not been to?
I've not been to a lot of places. We Japan, Australia, the US
Okay.
is where we primarily went, and of course Europe, Germany,
You.
Belgium, the UK, Scotland. So
Okay.
and some places in China. Most of those were I did most of those flights. The long haul flights like the Sydneys, the Melbournes, the New York, Washington.
Okay.
Those were 340 flights until the the whole mass of 777 started coming in. And then the
Okay.
777s kind of took over a lot of those routes. They took over the New
Yeah.
York route. They took over the Chicago route. As a matter of fact, that was the first route that they took over. So I never
Yeah.
actually flew to Chicago on the 340. That was the first long haul flight that the 777 took. Then they took the thing. So the 340 long haul flights ended up only being Sao Paulo, Brazil,
Okay.
Washington D.C.,
Mm-hmm.
and and um, and either Korea or Japan
Okay.
were what the 340s were being used for by the time I had upgraded.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well,
So,
that's good.
and that's it really. We were supposed to do LA when we started flying to LA out of Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
I did all the polar training and all of that in preparation for that. I never actually did that flight. The 340s had that flight for maybe 2 months, and then the
Oh,
777s took it.
over.
So yeah, yeah,
Okay. So what I wanted to touch onto is so you pretty much I imagine had a culture shock from living in Jamaica all these years I know into Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates, and of course, including myself, growing up, always heard these things in off the media that, oh, when you're in the Middle East you can't do this, you can't do that, and I would
yeah.
never fly to the Middle East, and I would never. But of course, we know now in the modern day that's not true. So, what was life like living in Abu Dhabi? What can you clear up any of these rumors that people had going, or people had, of the Middle Eastern countries
Yeah,
and the
definitely.
lifestyle?
The whole attitude or impression that Westerners have of this side of the world is
Mm.
kind of, you know, it's not entirely true.
Yeah,
Particularly in the UAE, it's very modernized. If anybody go to Dubai, it's like you're walking down, in the middle of Manhattan,
yeah,
tall buildings, you know, it's
yeah,
very and you have so many expats living in those areas
sure.
that it becomes like you're living anywhere else. There are certain cultures that you must respect, right?
Sure.
As you would have expect anybody coming to your house to
Sure.
expect
Yeah.
to respect certain rules and regulations, right? So, be relatively conservative, no batty rider out a street type of thing. You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
They don't do well with you cussing them off or telling them bad word. So it's
Yeah.
better you don't do it. Um,
Sure.
you just basically have to be a decent human being, be a respectable and law-abiding citizen, and
Which
you
is
will go very far. Which shouldn't be hard for people. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Granted, it's a lot of people have this attitude where you don't have no rights over there, and it's not entirely true, but it's kind of is true. But at the same time, if you are behaving yourself and obeying the laws and regulations of the place, then you wouldn't have any problems. So
True.
unless you're
True.
planning to go there and try and push against the system, then you're going to run up into a big wall.
Sure. Sure.
Right? But the concern about ladies having to wear a abaya and
Right.
cover their face and
So, not true.
not no
Okay.
go so, not no go so. If that is your religion, then you are free to do it. If it is not, you don't have to cover your head, you don't have to cover your face. Nothing like that, right?
Yeah.
Just don't wear no batty rider. Don't have your breast them out the door. you know, very simple,
Yeah.
common decency things. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So living there is fine. It's not. I had no issue living there for the amount of time that I was there.
Okay. And how did your family adjust to it as well? Your sons and wife.
Um, Fairly well. They went to an international school, so it was a good experience for them. It exposed them to a lot of other different cultures because again, it's an American school that we went to, and you have
Okay.
kids from all over the world going there, right? So and the schools tend to have these little, international days every so often, so you learn about a little thing about the man from Germany or the youth
Yeah.
from Australia, or and my son had friends from all of these places. You know, my older
Okay.
son only spent 2 years there because he got a football scholarship to play in high school in the States. So he only spent 2 years, and then went off to boarding school in the States, and he has done very well. He just graduated, like I said, I think I said it earlier. He just graduated from college 2 years ago.
Yes. Yeah. We
Um,
spoke about that.
right, and then well, let's say 2 years ago, he graduated from college last weekend, right? And my younger son was 5 years old when he got there, so he didn't have any great frame of reference
Sure.
when he got
Sure.
there, so he kind of assimilated pretty well into the system.
Okay.
It's just school. It's just, yeah, this is where we live. Right? He
Okay.
was he gave the most resistance when we left to come back to Jamaica,
Okay.
but he has adjusted.
One of the key things that just listening to your story, um, one of the key things I realized is that you had really good friends because it was your friends that encouraged you to get into the flying. And if you're going to do it now. And
Yeah,
they were there with you through it at Air Jamaica. And then when they
yeah,
left, they still did not forget you when they knew that, get back pretty soon. As I said, writing was on the wall. They said, listen,
right.
come over here. And they brought you there. I mean, all right, Richie, welcome back.
Everybody can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. The technology failed
Excellent.
us.
That's what happens sometimes. No big thing.
Yeah. What were you saying before we disconnected?
I don't remember where I was. I think I was just saying that we're talking about my being in Abu Dhabi, I think.
Yeah, we're talking
Um,
about the lifestyle and the family being
right.
there, adjusting.
Yeah.
And then
So
talking
everybody,
about your Martin and those guys who were with you along the journey all the way.
right. Yeah, man. Those guys guide me from day one.
Yeah.
So I spent a whole portion of my career running them down.
Well, trust me, enough big ups to them. It's not everybody have those type of friends in their life.
Yeah,
So
for
wherever
real.
they are watching, just to big them up. Respects to them for, you know,
Yeah, man.
getting it there.
No
Hopefully
question.
I have some of those friends as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So
All right.
so yeah, so yeah, that's it. So that where we reach now.
Yeah. So the next question is that I knew we were talking about Abu Dhabi, of course, but then you're no longer in Abu Dhabi. Then Fly Jamaica came up, I believe, shortly after,
Right.
or after the 7 years, and then you came back home and started
Yeah.
flying Boeings. Unfortunately, I feel your pain, but the, the trade-off was that you got to come home. So it was a fair trade-off. Fly the Boeings, you get to come home and
Yeah, well,
visit.
exactly.
So, but
You
what was
know,
that? What was
the,
your experience?
the bottom line is that when you pull up, the plane go up. When you push, the plane go down. So airplane is airplane,
True,
right?
true.
My reasoning for coming home was primarily because there were two reasons. Um, the, the primary reason for me was my younger son who had not grown up in Jamaica, don't know nothing about Jamaica, and because of the immigration laws in the UAE,
Okay.
once you turn 18 as a male child, you must be on your own visa, which means he can no longer
Okay.
be my dependent. So if he doesn't have a job or is not going to school there, then he would have to leave. And if he leaves, where is he going?
Okay.
Going back home to Jamaica. And having not grown up in Jamaica, a day of his, formative years, for example, I guess is the right way to say it. Um, it would be difficult, I think you would agree. Just drop a 18-year-old youth who never grew up
Yeah.
in Jamaica, just drop him in Jamaica and say, you that
Yeah.
wasn't a good idea. So that was that was the primary reason for my wanting to come home. Secondly, and
Okay.
a really close second, I wanted to come home
Yeah. Yeah.
because the only times I got home was maybe once a year, sometimes twice a year. And that wasn't working for me. It never did work for me from the very beginning, but you work with it. But as time went on, as the years passed, it got more and more difficult to leave every time I went home.
Yeah.
And as much as Jamaica has its problems, like everywhere else, Jamaica is still home.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the reasons I came home.
Okay.
So I went home on a trip once. Heather Mackay was there at the time. They were
Mm.
already 4 years in. We know it was going to be. It was tricky, but they had survived 4 years up to that point, and
Okay.
and I figured, let me try a thing. And, Heather, introduced me to the chief pilot, um, Captain Savory. We,
Okay.
we sat down, had a little meeting with a couple of the senior people at the company.
Mm-hmm.
For want of a better word, it was an interview, right?
Okay.
But it was just a little chat, really.
True. Yeah.
Talked about my experiences both with Abu Dhabi and Air Jamaica prior to that, and my desire to come home, and
Okay.
and they were willing to take me on.
Yeah.
So, I later that year I had to go do the ATP because I had to get the FA license. I now
Okay.
had to do that ATP CTP course,
Of course. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that waste of time exercise that costs more money than it's worth.
Yeah.
Um, so I did that. Um, I think that was my next trip home, which was sometime in March. I succeeded with it.
Mm-hmm.
I did the ATP written the morning after that, and that very
Okay.
evening I was on a plane to Jamaica.
Okay.
And while I was in the departure lounge at Fort Lauderdale that afternoon is when I wrote my resignation letter to Etihad.
Okay.
So that was April, and I left in July, and I started with Fly Jamaica in August of 2017. Yeah,
Okay.
August 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was fun too. My thing is, you're flying with friends, you're flying with your own people. Um, you know, you'll get used to the airplane eventually. You know, flying the 7.5 and the 7.6 wasn't a bad thing. I'm just glad it wasn't a 7.3. That's just me. That's just me.
Yeah,
Because
I know
I've you know, those who have flown the 7.3 and flown the 7.5 and 7.6 have told me is night and day. So I'm glad I got the day part of it. Yeah, and flying the airplane was fun, you know. And like I said, you know, flying with your own people is always a great thing. You know, you really feel like family,
yeah.
you know,
Well, that's
as
good.
anyone who flies, what I guess Cal can attest to. You
Yeah,
know, when you fly for these big international organizations where you have 20,000 different people, you know, if I fly while I was at FO, and even when I was a captain, if I fly with the same captain or FO 2 times for the year, I'm lucky. I fly with a guy and you'd
okay.
go on a 3-day trip with the guy, you and him a vibe, you and him a get along great, and you say, boy, I'm gonna fly with that brother here again. You know, I
Yeah,
see him again.
yeah.
You know what I
It's
mean?
a, that's a
But you
large,
know,
it's a large work.
yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So my short time at Fly Jamaica was very enjoyable for me. Um,
Okay.
it's just unfortunate that things worked out the way it did, but whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So how long did you spend at FlyJ?
A year and change before it locked down. Not even
Oh,
two.
that's a
It wasn't quite 2 years. Yeah, it was between 2017 and when it locked down, 2019.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was there from August. It was a year and a half from August of 2017 till when my last flight was in October of 2018.
Okay.
Because right after that happened, I went to simulator, came back from simulator, and then the accident happened.
Yeah.
By then the 7.6 was already in Mexico and everything crashed. So yeah, so that was
It's
that
just
was the end of
unfortunate.
that. Yeah, it really was. It really was.
Yeah. All right. So, but I mean, after FlyJ, now, of course, you're down and out for what, another year? Was it as much as a year or a couple
It
months?
wasn't deep. It was only a couple of months. Technically speaking, I well, if you from a flying point of view, I'd stopped flying in call it end of October, call it November.
Okay.
When the accident happened, I made contact with Captain Omar Parkins. Now, Omar Parkins is one of my former captains at Air Jamaica.
Okay.
And he told me this would have been early December. He told me about this airline that I'm with now. And he had
Okay.
just started here. He was in China for many years. And then he got out of China and landed this job. And he told me about it. I said, what are the chances of me getting in? Because my concern at the time now is that I'm no longer current on Airbus. Last time I
Sure.
flew on Airbus was in July of 2017. It is now end of 2018, going into 2019. So, normally companies do barely look at you if you have not been flying the airplane within the last 6 months, let alone 18.
Okay.
But I guess, by then I had amassed 7,000 hours in Airbus of 3 different types. So,
Nice.
he said, look, send me your resume. I will walk it into management, into flight ops management,
Okay.
and see what they say. So I did that. I sent in my resume. Again, no, this is shortly after the accident. There's no talk of the airline shutting down yet, but it didn't look good from back then, as you can imagine. So I said, boy, let me
Yeah.
go ahead and do this. So I did. They decided to give me an interview, which was done over Skype, like kind of like whatever, kind of like what we're doing now. I had a conversation with
Yeah.
the director of flight operations at first. That went reasonably well. It was basically a meet
Okay.
and greet because, the expectation, I thought he was going to ask me a lot of technical questions about the Airbus, and having left the Airbus 18 months ago, and my head now full of 7.5, 7.67. I didn't know how that was gonna go.
Yeah.
But it was basically just like a talk, back and forth. How long did I spend at Etihad? You know, am I familiar with the region and this type of thing? So that went well. And
Okay.
and then, you know, everything looked good, and so, you know, the feedback from Omar was good as well. And then all of
Okay.
us, so months passed. I expected to hear from them, like this happened just before Christmas in 2018. I expected to hear from them early the following month. Didn't hear anything. Couple months went by. I didn't hear anything. And then all of a sudden, I get called in for another interview via Skype with HR. That also went well.
Okay.
And he said, okay, fine. The next step now is for me to send you some information. You need to go look about visa, this, that, and the next thing. Again, I don't hear anything for a while. And then
Okay.
the Ethiopian Max crash happened. This was when March.
Yeah.
The backstory behind that also is that Flyer Deal, which is the name of the company that I'm working for now, had 50 Maxes on order. And that was their growth plan. So when that happened, it kind of threw their entire plan.
For the Max.
Yeah, for the Max. Out the window, so now they don't know what they're doing.
Okay.
So I actually got an email saying, we are terribly sorry. Thank you for coming. There is no more job.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, start the whole process over again and start to apply left, right, and center. I probably would have ended up in Japan where Yuri is now.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I had done an interview with Peach Aviation, which is in Japan, and was all set to go and do an assessment in Japan, this like the second week of April. And then suddenly I get a phone call from the same HR guy from Black. And he says, sorry, you know, what happened over the last month or so. As you know, the whole 737 MAX program is now out the water with that, and everything is kind of dead in the water now, and we're kind of shift up with focus and thing. And I thought that was basically just a call to say, you know, sorry it never worked out, but you know, we know it kind of came last minute, but peace, good luck to you. And I said, well, all right. That is what I thought the conversation was going to end up being. Then he says, okay, so we need you here in 2 weeks.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what? And in these 2 weeks, I need to sort out visa, plane ticket, whole heap of things needed to go on in that 2-week period.
Yeah.
Anyway, luckily I got it done, and I got here to Jeddah. And it's been a year. It's been a year and change now. I started on the 13th or 14th of April. Here I am, a year later, stuck in Saudi Arabia, can't leave.
And it's just so the viewers know, you're back now on the A320s, back now on an Airbus.
Yes.
Happily.
Yes, sir. Back home. A Airbus me born and grow.
So Flyer Deal, they don't fly internationally, right? You are within the within Saudi Arabia flying.
Yeah, correct. It's a domestic operation. It's a subsidiary of Saudi Arabian Airlines, which is a national carrier for Saudi Arabia. But it's like the southwest of Saudi Arabia. Low cost airline.
Okay.
No frills, buy everything, cheap ticket, you know, this type of thing. So all economy.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're a domestic operation at the moment. The plan is to go international. I think the plan was actually to go international this year, but I think Corona mashed that up amongst other things. But yeah, the plan is still to go to go international eventually. But yeah, for now it's a domestic operation. We're about, I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 destinations crisscrossing.
Okay.
Your screen has frozen
and
again.
How was that been?
Okay, are you here, mister? We're back to I cannot hear you again. I
But
don't know that.
yeah, the question I was asking is, what has the experience been like at Flyerdale so far?
So far, it's been good. No issues at all. Everybody's very nice. I got lucky. The work is hard though. It's a 24-hour operation.
Okay.
So flights are leaving at some bad hours. Go to work at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, and four sectors of at least an hour and a half each. So you don't get back to base until 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. Some 12-hour nights, not days, 12-hour nights. Um,
Okay.
so that it can be challenging. It can be very challenging. Um, but it's been good. Luckily, we have three. Well, we have three bases. I was gonna say had, but we haven't killed the other one yet. So there are three bases. One in Jeddah, which is the home base. One in Riyadh, which is the capital of Saudi Arabia, and then we have another base in Dammam that I was part of the crew that started that base back in July of last year. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so my base is the easiest base in the world. Decent hours. The only indecent hours for my base is if you have to wake up at 2 in the morning for a 4 o'clock show to do two legs. So but you're actually back home by 9. So that is bad and not so bad.
Right.
Everything
Okay.
else starts during the day. Um, so my base is, as far as the rough work and the night work is concerned, is the easiest base out of all of them. Um, so I got lucky there. So us guys who are in the Dammam base don't want anybody upset the cart. We're just nice right here. We don't want any
Okay.
four leg four leg middle of the night deals. We're doing very well, very
Yeah.
civilized, very civilized.
Yeah.
Um, and we have so so I mentioned Omar Parkins who vouched for me to get me here, so I'm very thankful to
Yeah.
him. We have another Jamaican here doing Barnes, who also was with us at Air Jamaica. He was also with me at
Okay.
Etihad. As a matter of fact, he was there about a year before I was at Etihad. He is now here as well. So there are three of us in this
Okay.
company. So we have a small posse,
Okay.
except that we're at the three different bases. So we don't get to talk, we don't get to interact much together. But we have a
Much.
little WhatsApp
Yeah.
group that we chat on a fairly regular basis.
Okay.
So yeah, it's
Somebody
a nice company to work for.
somebody just asked a question about the language. Of course, in the Middle East, of course, their language is Arabic. But did you have to learn the language? Is the question
I've lived in this region
they
for
asked.
now.
I mean, the universal isn't.
Yeah, that's true. Um, I've lived in this region for now going on 8 years. I know maybe 5 words in Arabic. So
That's high and by.
it
And
pretty, pretty much, right? And thank you. Um, but it's a little harder here than it was in the UAE. The English language is more widely spoken in the UAE than it is here. But you know,
okay.
enough people speak it enough that I can get by. And if and
Okay.
if nothing else, I drop my Google Translate and I speak into it,
And use
and
it.
it
Yeah,
tell
that makes sense.
yeah, you know. So so yeah, so that's it. There's always going to be that a little bit of a language barrier here and there, but at work not so much because, like you said, English is the standard language for aviation, which which I love. Um,
True.
so it's cool. No big issues.
Is I know Saudi Arabia with their laws maybe a little bit more strict in their country. Is the lifestyle similar to what it was in the UAE, or is it a little bit, you know, a little bit more
To
stricter there?
not exactly. I wouldn't say it's stricter. My problem is that I am pretty isolated where I am. I've been living in a hotel for the last almost a year. Um, I go to work, they
Okay.
take me to work, they bring me back home. I get fed at the hotel,
Okay.
or I order delivery. So I don't go out very much. There
Okay.
are a couple of other Jamaicans. There's one other Jamaican in Dammam, who works
Okay.
for Flynas. Um, we have met up once in the time that we've been here. Um, there were
Mm-hmm.
some other Jamaicans in Riyadh as well. Most of them have left by
Okay.
now, I think. So I, it doesn't compare. My lifestyle here doesn't compare to what it was when I was in the UAE, simply because
Yeah, okay.
my family is not here. Most of my
Okay.
friends aren't within reach. So I pretty much
Mm-hmm.
just keep to myself. We have a little core group of us pilots and cabin crew that stayed at the hotel. So we meet up in the evening time and drink a cup of coffee and chat little foolishness for a little while. But I can't speak to the general lifestyle here, because I don't do much. I do my 3 weeks work. I go home for a week, and I come back and I do it again.
Okay.
That's pretty much my life for the last year, except for this. I mean, I've been stuck here since the beginning of March now. Can't get
Yeah, yeah.
can't get to leave,
Pandemic.
but yeah. So, but what it is,
Yeah, but
it
for
is what it
for
is. We
the
just
aspiring pilots,
go ahead.
yeah, for the aspiring pilots, just to kind of get the message across that this type of stuff comes with the career. At times you have to be away from family, be away from home. Um, you just have to do what you have to do to keep
Yeah,
flying and earn a living while flying. Of course, you're not a U.S. citizen, which is closer to home, but because you're not a U.S. citizen, you have to venture out to other countries that will allow foreign nationals to work within the country. And
yeah,
as we know, the Middle East is one of those countries, or one of the places that allows that type of thing to have. I guess more so because they have a diverse set of passengers, so they have a diverse set of crew to fly their passengers. I'm not sure if that's the reason why, but you know, it's just one of the things that comes with being a pilot. Yes, you get to fly these nice airplanes, you get to fly far and wide, and you meet all sorts of people, all sorts of experiences. You get to see different cultures and stuff
yeah.
like that. But at the end of the day, it's one of the trade-offs where you work 3 weeks on. You're away from family,
Right.
um, you know, things like that. Pretty much what you have gone through in
Yep.
your career. So
Yep.
just to kind
Yep.
of let them know that that's what that comes with it. That's the type of thing that comes with as well.
That's
But one of the other things that I wanted to get your input on, as I mentioned earlier, you had very good friends who kind of helped you along the way to where you
Yep.
are now. But for upcoming pilots, young pilots who maybe have their 200 to 1,000, 1,500 hours, and they're stuck in Jamaica, and they're looking for opportunities to go somewhere to build themselves up as pilots, as professionals, also to earn a good living, something to start with. What kind of advice would you give to them? What can they do? How far can they venture out?
the as far as the only option I see for Jamaicans who don't have the ability to work in the US or Canada is Eastern Caribbean, Antigua, St. Vincent, Trinidad, that round those regions. Couple of the guys who I've seen here, Joel Simpson used to work for DHL, based in Turks, I believe. Um, um,
Okay.
some other guys, a lot of these Caribbean pilots, particularly EC, used to work for them little small operations in those small islands. It
Mm.
requires you to go and take their exams, um, you know,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
and get their license, which is slightly different. Um, but that is
Hmm.
where a lot of the time building, might have to be done. I don't because there's such limited access. I mean, I don't know how accessible it is over there right now. I mean, you know, there probably not a lot of jobs going on down there anyway, but that is kind of where them have to look. But you know, but time building jobs, that's what it's all about. Whether you want to instruct or fly packages or, you know, commuter, you know, operations over that side of the world, Turks and Caicos, for example. That's kind of what your options are. You know, if you once you if you have papers to work in the States, I mean, it's the same deal though, you know. You still have to find these little time building jobs because nobody is, it's very difficult for you to leave, as Peter Ramsey, hi Peter, is saying here. No, you might have to, I mean, again, Joel is another example of this. Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, you know, Philippines. These are places where some people have to go to find a little job. There's a you know, which goes through the daily, you know, things of these guys that are flying some airplane that I never even hear about into some grass strips in our valley, you know, taking supplies to the locals in those areas that don't have access to road or nothing. You know, those are the type of jobs that young pilots have to look towards to just build some time, because you know you can't get an airline job now if you don't have 1,500 hours. You know, well, I don't know what for example Caribbean Airlines is requirements are for first officers now.
Pretty much
have to have I don't know if them have to have an ATP, for example. But if that is the case,
well, I mean,
then you know,
no airline that's no.
Yeah.
I would say that I hardly know an airline now that's hiring without an ATP. So it's best to
and to get an ATP you need 1,500 hours. And if it's a FAA ATP, you have to spend another $5,000 on this full CTP exam as well, which is really the most idiotic thing that I've ever had to spend money on.
Yeah, it's tough.
But anyway, it is what it is.
It's just
that's
necessary
the requirement, so that's. Yeah, indeed.
But so for those who, well, we're talking about those who want to get into the industry. Would you still encourage them to get into it? You know, what kind of advice you have for them?
Again, it is very difficult for me, knowing the situation, particularly in Jamaica. If it's something that you want to do, I'm not suggesting that you don't do it, but just understand that it's going to be difficult. Again, it's all about timing. I was very, very lucky where in my career. I was lucky to have friends who work for these operations, whether it be Jimmy at Airlink, which is where my first job was. Although I wasn't really getting paid, I was just a trainee, right? But I worked there for a month. I got a start there. I got in because I knew people at Airways, because me and Mike Fennell, who you know, also I know him through motor racing. Can you hear me? Because you went away again. No, you can't. And we're back.
Boy, it's a sample thing. I am using both digital and flow, and it's the same thing. So I don't know. I don't know, Rasta. I can't hear you.
The good news is that people keep coming back.
True. But I'm not going to keep them up longer. So pretty much, as a captain, well experienced, you know, you mentioned 7,000 hours, but that was fine. So I imagine you have surpassed maybe 8, 9, even 10,000 hours at this point.
Oh,
What
oh,
are
total time?
yeah,
Total time I've gone. I think I'm 11 plus now.
11 plus?
Seven
That's a
thousand,
lot.
7,000 was just Airbus alone.
That is that's 10,700 more than what I have. That's a lot of flying hours, trust me. A
Everybody
lot
has
of
gone through
hours.
that. Everybody has gone
True,
through less than 1,000 hours before. So it is a step by step process.
true, true. Yeah. So, what I know with all of that experience, you have learned a lot. Apart from advice as to how you should, once they're in it, what advice would you give to them? Not because that's one of the things with the club that we try to encourage persons that listen. Yes, while everybody wants to become a pilot, the aviation industry, so many different things that you can do, from flight attending, air traffic controlling. There's also military pilots, corporate pilots.
Yeah.
There are the persons who build the airplanes. There are those who maintain the airplanes. There are those who build the airport, maintain the airport, run the airport.
Yeah.
It's a big network that surrounds the airplane itself. You know,
Yep.
so
Yep.
for the aviation industry as a whole, it's an industry that we love. We love the flying, yes, but we love the network that supports the
Right.
airplane, and it's absolutely amazing. When you fly to these major airports, even in the U.S., and especially at night, you land at night. I'm sure if you notice, but I always sit at the window seat when I'm flying, and when the airplane turns on final, or what I think is final, and
Mm.
the wing levels off, and I look behind me and see the different airplanes stepping down, getting a little lower, and your landing lights flicking on from miles out, following the same pattern in. It just shows
Yep.
you how amazing the network is. But for those who want to get to the industry, for those who want to fly, those who are finding it challenging now, what kind of advice would you give to them, to
It's
somebody
just
like that?
perseverance. It's just perseverance. If it's something that you really want to do, what I'm saying, if you want good, nose off a run. That is
Who's have to
basically
run?
what
Yeah,
this entire industry is all about. You just have to
sure.
persevere as much as you can. Somebody asked a question, how do you finance it? I mean, that is another big problem, particularly for flight school and this type of thing is a lot of money, and
Mhm.
and unless you have a lot of money put on, it's going to take a while for you to do it, because a lot of people, like I said earlier, a lot of people have to
Sure,
work a regular 9 to 5 and get up a little money for the one flight tomorrow with an instructor which costs X amount of money, and that's
sure.
how they do it, and that's how a lot of these pilots over the years have had to do it.
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
so that is, you just have to persevere. If you find an interest in another area of aviation, pursue that as well. You know, you just have
sure.
to. It's all about perseverance. It's all about perseverance. There's no easy way to get into this thing,
Yeah.
unless even if you have the money, it's not
Hmm.
just like getting into a car and driving. There's a whole heap of work that goes into it. And what they need to also realize is that when you get a job flying a particular type of airplane, depending on the type of operation, you still have to go and train every 6 months to a year,
True.
you know, to keep up your rating. I mean, my life right now is every 6 months. You do a test and you go to 6 months and you do it again.
Hmm.
Aviation is the only profession where you have to train for it constantly. You know,
Constantly, yeah.
doc, doctor,
Good
doctor
reason.
go, yeah. I mean, doctors go and train for whatever length of time they train for, whether it be 6 to 8 years or 10 years, and then that's it. All them have to do is read a
That's it.
little circular to keep up to date with certain things, but they don't go and retrain unless they choose to do so, right? I
True.
mean, look at Brittany, for example, who's just saying it took her 10 years just to get her PPL. That is what
Yeah.
that is perseverance right there, right? You have a dream
True.
and you want to attain it, you have to do X, Y, and Z to get there, and it takes as long as it takes. It all depends on your own resources
Fix it.
and your own desire to do it, right?
True.
I was very lucky. The timing for me has, I've been very blessed. With everything that I've gone through, I was able to finance it in a short period of time, right? Thanks to my mother, right? I still don't pay her back fully yet, right? The timing, it's all about timing as well, because the time, the job came up at that time. Luckily, I put myself in a position to be able to, you know, take an opportunity in with Etihad, you know. That was a timing thing as well. The whole Fly Jamaica thing came at the right time for me as well, even though it didn't last very long. But again, timing again. I put myself in a position where I got this job. That was all timing, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
it is a lot of luck, a lot of perseverance, you know, holy blessing, you know, and good
Okay.
friend, live good with
So
people, and good things will come to you.
yeah, so pretty much, if it is your goal to be in the aviation industry, it is good to keep persevering as you say, but also put yourself in a position that when the opportunity comes, you're able to take it because if you can fly, when you do 1 hour here, 2 hours there, you keep pushing yourself or you
Every,
keep progressing so that when the opportunity
yeah,
comes, you can take it. Because that's what you did. You realized that, listen, I needed to get this particular thing done. You went overseas, you didn't wait. And then as soon as you came back, you were able to, you know, even just get the interview with Air Jamaica. So at least somebody knew your name and credentials. So when the opportunity
yeah.
came up, you could have taken it. But one of the last things that I wanted to touch on, Cap, is especially in a time like this with the pandemic, right? I've always heard growing in the industry, not put all your eggs in one basket. And as pilots, in a time like this, we're pretty much grounded. There's no flying going on right now. And some pilots are forced to take early retirement. Some pilots who are type rated on these long haul airplanes, it's 777s and stuff, those airplanes are hired by a lot of airlines. So,
Mm.
it kind of leaves them not having anything to fly, no jobs, so on and so forth. So, would you say that it is best not to go full in with all the eggs in one basket? Should pilots go in with a should they go in with a degree, or what kind of advice would you give? Because you have experience prior in computers and stuff. So, what would you say to that?
It- that is, it's difficult. It's difficult to answer. I It is
Okay.
always, if you have the opportunity to go to school and get a degree, do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is probably better to do that now, because particularly in the US, you know,
Mm-hmm.
they prefer that you have a 4-year degree in basket weaving, it seems, because it don't have to be anything to do
Aviation
with
related, yeah.
aviation, right? You
Yeah.
could have a doctorate to get a job over a guy who doesn't. I, okay, I'm not hearing you. We're gone again. One more
But
time.
yeah, just the final point.
Yeah, I
Just
was
repeat what
saying,
you were saying.
before we get cut off again. Um, yeah, so if you have the opportunity to get a degree, then I would say do that. It
Okay.
may not have anything to do with aviation. If you choose to do an aviation degree, great. But you must. There are two train of thought. You can say, if you have a backup plan, you're not committed to the first plan. That is one way of looking at it.
True. Yeah.
The other way, of course, is a more sensible way, I guess some would say, is that always have a backup plan. Um,
Yeah.
I do have a backup plan at this point. I don't do nothing else but play music, right? And unfortunately play music in Jamaica unless I get put onto Sean Paul or Shaggy's band or Taurus Riley. I'm not gonna make any money playing music. any major money place.
But yeah,
No, having said that, don't get me wrong. There are friends of mine out there who are doing this music thing full time, and they're making it work. My instrument don't lend towards that. I play conga drum and chops, and there are enough of us out there. So it would be difficult if
okay,
I had to give up this flying thing. No.
sure.
So anyway, so if you want to do it, if you have the opportunity to go to school, go to school. But there are people out there who had the opportunity to go to school, chose to do flying, are flying now, and did their school online.
Online,
Right?
yeah.
Right? I have a couple of friends who are doing one particular is doing that very thing right now, doing his aviation masters, having not gone to school before he started flying. So it's really up to you. You need to weigh your opportunities versus your resources. Right?
Okay.
If you have the ability to do it, but at the end of it, you're going to have spent all that money, and you're out there scrounging because there's no jobs out there. It's rough, right? So
Yeah.
you may want to look into other forms of aviation, like a couple of people have done. Another example is Richard Graham, who is a senior ATC air traffic controller, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Who did that, but did flying on the side, and he's now part of the JDF crew that's doing some instructing. So he's now doing two things, right? So he has
Both
managed to
struggling, yeah.
find a way to think, and that's the same thing, for example, that Brittany is doing, right? She's in ATC now. She's working her way towards getting all her ratings, and then hopefully she'll find a job as a pilot somewhere, and this type of thing. So Mile Hyman is the friend that I was talking. Jason Mars, he's the one guys responsible for my being here. Martin was there earlier as well.
Yeah.
So you just have to wait. You just have to weigh, weigh your resources. If you have resources to do it, go ahead. But
Yeah.
just understand that the climate now, particularly now, it's rough out there, right? But if you have already started, I would say continue if you can, right? It's up to the whole, backup plan thing. You can take it either way. You either focus on what you want, or you're thinking about what you're gonna do in case this don't work out. They're two
In
trains of
case,
thought,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So
All right. Well, I appreciate the insight, Captain. I appreciate you spending the time with us today. I'm hoping that the information and the story told would have, inspired somebody and kind of give them an idea of maybe what they can do to, or maybe the type of friends that they need to have in their circle. So,
Well, it's always good to
but
have good friends.
yeah, and I know you mentioned Mr. Reed's name and how influential he was, or through his
Yeah,
company Airways International was, and that's one of the reasons why we had created that honorary scholarship in a name of somebody like him, in the name of somebody like him who has contributed a lot to
yeah,
the development of pilots and other professions. And I can think of Mark Carey, who was one of them, who worked in a parts department before going to fly, before getting the chance to fly with Airpark.
right.
So he himself persevered, and he flew with Air Jamaica, he flew with Cal.
Yep,
He's now flying a Lear 55 with corporate, in corporate
yep,
aviation.
yep,
So
yep.
as you said, it takes a lot of perseverance. You keep persevering and you pay your dues, and eventually, things will work out as it has for you, as it has for others before you, and it will for others after you. So I really appreciate the insight, and hopefully
Yeah,
everybody
man.
benefited from it. Don't think this is the last time we're going to speak though, because I'm sure there's a lot more that we can talk about once we sort out this internet issue.
It
But
look, it has worked out because we've been able to speak a lot longer, and
true,
most of the people are usually coming. I think we had up to 75 people at one point in the middle of it.
true,
So
yeah,
so at least
yeah,
they're interested. You know what I mean? Something that somebody asked
true.
me
At
to
least we're
ask
not
you
boring.
though. Well, I,
Sure.
I hope not. Somebody asked me if the aviation club provide scholarship. Now you spoke about the Chris Reed Jeffrey Meeks scholarship, but prior to that, did
Scholarship, yeah.
you do you guys? I know you guys have some sort of relationship with Florida Institute of Technology. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So they were
Yeah, so
asking if
in
you
regards to
go ahead.
yeah, in regards to the scholarship, so the Christopher Reed and the Jeffrey Meek scholarship, of course, is something very new, just a few weeks old, and
Right,
we are hoping to announce. Well, on June 1st, actually, we're going to send out the criteria for persons to be eligible for the scholarship, and then in October, we will announce the first two persons who will be receiving the scholarship. But other than that, we have developed relationships with the Florida Institute of Technology in Melbourne, Florida,
right,
and they offer every club member at least 10,000 US per year out of their total tuition. So if the tuition per year is 20,000 US, then at least 10 out of it
right.
will
Okay.
be given based on the scholarship. And then there are
Hmm.
other financial contributions that can be made through the alumni and some other different grants that are available that
Right,
increases the amount. If your GPA is at a certain level, you'll get more than the 10,000. You can get up to
okay.
14,000 from the school if you have a very good GPA.
Yeah,
The other school that we have a relationship with is Two Fly in Merritt Island. We have
right.
had a good relationship with them for years. So usually what happens is that when they go to seminars, so they'll come to Kingston and they'll travel all over the world to do their seminars. And at the seminar, they'll give you a one-time offer to to get access to about $10,000 as well out of the tuition to go from zero to commercial, the 250 hours required commercial. So
Okay,
they will give the $10,000 at the seminar, if you are a club member, that $10,000 is still available to you, even if you didn't attend the seminar, if you
okay,
understand what I'm saying. So you
okay.
still have access to that great discount. Um, and we also have a new partnership developing with Epic Flight Academy in New Smyrna Beach. That is still developing, but something similar is coming with that flight school as well because of a very great infrastructure. Their airplanes are new G1000. The price that you
Oh,
pay for a G1000 in South Florida is a little less with them. Their
right.
airplanes, as I said, are pretty new. Maybe the oldest airplane that I have is maybe 2008, 2009.
Hmm.
It's a very nice school, one that I've visited myself. So we're developing relationships with different institutions that will help members to, just ease the burden. It's not going to be a easy ride. You're not going to get a full scholarship, but
Right.
it eases the
It
financial
still
burden.
helps, and a little
It
bit
still
helps. Yeah.
helps, you know.
Okay.
And then with the club, we try to develop relationships, especially with persons like yourself. Christopher Reed is on board. You should be familiar with Sean Schroeder and
Hmm.
some other persons, senior members who of the industry who are now becoming some sort of mentors to say, okay, this is how I did it. This is what the industry is like now. This is maybe a way that you can do it as well. So
Right.
more pilots and professionals are coming on board to give some sort of mentoring to upcoming
Right.
pilots as well. And one of the other things that we're doing, like we were speaking about pilots, is to try and have a lot of safety forums, which is what we're going to try to do as well, with the help of the JCAA, to speak about how we can be, if more efficient and safe in the air. A lot of these young pilots have this glamour thing in their head. I mean, I remember being at flight school and Sandals was right beside us at CATC, and while Sandals' pilots would go on their backs and bellies to pre-flight the Baron or pre-flight whatever airplane, these flight students didn't even want to, get them white shirt or pants messy because the pilots must look very good and stuff
Oh,
like that. But we're trying to get them to see that, listen, we want to fly safe. It's not a prettiness thing. It's not a glamour thing.
correct.
It's getting from point A to point B safely. And you know, when something happens, when there's an accident, there's no prettiness involved. There's no fun and jokes
Yeah, that
involved.
ain't fun.
Unfortunately, Mark Scott died, as
Yeah.
in a training exercise, and it seems like they were doing exactly what they were supposed to do. If it were not for
So,
that light wire, they would have probably made a very good
yeah. It,
emergency landing. But at the end
yeah.
of the day, those things don't really matter. You just want to get home
Right.
safely.
Correct. Correct.
And not just us, there are people below us too that we are responsible for when we are
Yeah.
flying over. So you want to try and keep those forums with the assistance of senior persons like yourself. There's Peter West that's involved as well with the
Okay.
CAA
Okay.
to
That's
kind of
good.
speak to the upcoming pilots, current and upcoming pilots, just to help to contribute to making the industry and the professionals
Yeah, man.
just contribute to their development. So that's some of the stuff that we're working on. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not just about flying an airplane. There's so many careers
Right.
involved in the industry that you can, get involved in. You may think you want to fly, but as soon as you see somebody working on an airplane, it just excites you, and all of a sudden you want to be an aircraft mechanic. You go up in the tower, and you thought you wanted to be a pilot, but you prefer being in the tower, coordinating airplanes all around you. That may excite you more than flying the airplane.
Yep.
Stuff like that. So
Yep.
we try to expose and introduce members to the industry, and then through exposure and their comfort level from the exposure that they have given, they decide that, hey, this is a career that I would love to pursue, and we say, all right, this is how to pursue it. This is what it's going to take, and provide that step-by-step guidance as how they can do it, and they become the professionals, and it's on to the next one. Who is next?
Right.
You know.
Right. Well, yeah, it's a good thing that you're doing. I've been following you since you started. However many years that was,
Yeah.
I mean, how long you been doing this now?
Since high school, since I was in grade 8, 2006, till now.
See there? Yeah, so so I've been watching from then. I've been watching
Yeah,
from then.
it's
And
been a
it's
while.
it's a good thing. It's a good thing that you're doing, and it bringing more awareness to the thing. And I dare say you are part responsible for a lot of the people, a lot of the young guys, particularly from the high schools that are getting into or want to
Into it.
become
Yeah.
pilots. So I just wanted to tell you, good job. I don't know how many people tell you that, but
I
you're doing,
appreciate it. Yeah.
yeah, man, good job. And the relationship that you have built with these entities, is it only helps everybody
Yeah.
to get further along. So good job. I really appreciate
Well, I mean,
you
it's
doing
just
that.
a passion. In all honesty, it's just a passion, because one of the ways we enjoy aviation is through sharing it with somebody.
Yep.
So the more that we can share it with, and I mean, just even my own story, I have been helped by a lot of people. The Jeffrey Meeks and the Christopher Reed and the Lesmore Samuels and the Justin Reed as well. I have been helped by these people, and it would be unfair not to pass it on to
Of course.
somebody else.
Of
So
course. Of course.
that's really the plan. But as again I said, Captain, thanks for touching base. I would say that today is a little less boring for you, seeing that you have somebody to talk to.
I don't know if you want to open it up. First of all, it's my pleasure. Like I said, even if I wasn't sitting around doing fuck all day,
Yeah.
I would still be very interested in having these kind of conversations with you guys. I don't know if you want to open it up to questions before you leave,
Definitely.
unless you're upon a time constraint. I'm not.
I'm not. But I'm just worried about having to go restart this thing again.
You make it sound like restarting mean turning on the thing, turning down the thing, and turning up the thing, and it's just a push button, and everybody will come back. So
True. All right, so let's open it to some questions. If anybody had any questions,
a
you can
couple of
post them.
questions came in, but I missed them now, so I don't know what's going on. So scroll back through. Anybody who have questions, run it. I ain't got nowhere going.
Let me see. I don't see any. Actually, we have reached out to Barrington Irving, and we have some projects coming up with Barrington Irving, but I don't want to speak on that prematurely.
Yeah, he's done quite a lot and continues to do so.
flying regionals now in the USA and thinking about going overseas.
Who, you
Why
are
not?
doing that?
Yeah, that person is doing that. He wants any recommendations as to where overseas, I'm assuming.
Oh, I don't know. Just apply everywhere, brother. I was suggesting to someone that them, with everything that's going on with the US airlines now, to just put something out there um, to any of those Middle Eastern airlines. Although they might not be hiring now, and then probably are laying off people, but at some point it's gonna pick back up.
It's going to pick up, yeah.
You know, so I would say do that. I started my
Um,
training, Richard 7036. I guess you and I are the same name. I started my training at 36 years old.
36, yeah.
And I was lucky enough to get my job at Air Jamaica when I just around the time I turned 40. So if you are way below that age, it's not too late.
How long
I
did it?
got how long did it take to achieve captain status? Let's see, 2006, 2014, 8 years. And I got it while I was at Etihad in Abu Dhabi. Is there any jobs for PPL? PPL by definition means private pilot license. You cannot earn money or get a job with a PPL. So you need to have your commercial before you can get a job. And the pilot unions with these foreign companies, it depends on where you work. Generally, the answer is no. If you're in the Middle East, there's no unions in the Middle East that I know of.
Okay.
How many hours do you have TT time also? I have around 11,000 hours.
This is the FAA ATP CPT course.
It is basically let me rephrase what I said earlier. For someone who has no jet time, it is basically a jet transition course. But it is the same jet transition course you would get when you join an airline anyway if you didn't have. And basically all airlines do basically the same training when you just start with them anyway. So all that is really a jet transition course. I had to do it with nearly 11,000 hours. It was me sitting down on my phone the entire time. And they were trying to teach, and I had already had X amount of hours on Airbus, and they were trying to teach me about Airbus systems in this course, which I think is pointless, but again, it is what it is. And it's $3,000 to $5,000 out of your pocket.
It's a lot.
If you did debunk about flying for these, and now what's that? What would you debunk about flying for these enamored with loving the idea of flying? I don't quite understand the question.
What would you debunk about flying for those
Enamored with loving the idea of flying?
Yeah,
It's not all glitz and glamour, I guess, what we were saying earlier. It's not all glitz and glamour. It's not all about, going to different destinations. There's a meme out there somewhere that says something to the effect of, this is what, you hear that pilot see the world, and they show you pictures of the different landmarks all over the world, and what a pilot really sees, and you see the Hilton, you see you see the Marriott, you see all these different hotels, because that's a lot of what all we see. When we get to a destination, we're there for maybe 24 hours, right? And there's not a lot that you can do to include rest time in 24 hours at a destination. So you may be able to see a little bit of these places, but it's not like you're going there on vacation every time you fly.
So, somebody asked, how can I become a club member? Simple. So we set up on the website www.aviationclubjam.com, where you can sign up there, or you can have the membership form and instructions emailed to you, and you email them back, and it's as simple as that. Any airlines doing cadet training? I think Emirates. Emirates does cadet training.
Here's the thing about these airlines that do cadet training. They are primarily for the locals of the country where it's happening. There are international cadet programs, very hard to get into. You're talking about them, and Jason can speak to this as well because he used to administer the one at Etihad for about a year or two. You're talking about 5,000 people trying to get 10 spots because they don't, it's not an ongoing thing. So whenever it does happen, you have maybe 10 spots and you have 10,000 pilots from all over the world trying to get into that one spot.
You see,
Joel Simpson tried that way once and was unsuccessful. The same, right? And what Jason is also saying is that very few of them are free. Air Arabia is an example of that. They have a cadet program, but you have to pay for it. So, and there are people who have been successful with that, but it costs a certain amount of money. I was actually considering, if my son was interested while we were still over there, I was nearly considering doing that with him if that's what he wanted to do. He has changed his desires, which is good for me because it not cost me as much money anymore. But but yeah, you have some of those. Somebody asked a question.
For ATP. Oh, I think it was just that Jam Aviator 1987 was answering somebody's question about the ATP. Nikita, what are some of the things that should be considered when choosing a flight school? So, from my experience, the infrastructure is one, the programs is two, the type of airplanes that they fly is another one, the condition of those airplanes, their safety record, of course, as well as the affordability is another thing to consider as well. And the location, because PFT, as I said, Captain, is located at FXC, but I would never think of doing flight training at FXC because FXC, as you know, caters to a lot of private jets. And by the time I start up and taxi and reach the runway, I would probably burn up 0.5 on the hubs just before I get the chance to take off, because it's busy with jets going out and coming in. It's a very fast-paced moving airport. So I would go to an airport like a Tinson Pen where as soon as I start up the engine and do a run-up, I can depart and make the most out of the flight time,
Well, there are lots of other things to consider as well. Location is one. I mean,
location, yeah.
New Cinnamon Beach, where Two Fly is, even FIT. I mean, them places are far compared to, for people.
South Florida.
For most of us live in South or associated with South Florida.
Sure.
So, I mean, I was lucky in that the airport in Pompano Beach was still basically an hour drive from where I was staying in Fort Lauderdale. So a lot of that depends. It depends on location as well, because if you have to be paying for accommodation, or if you can find a friend to stay with, for example, and him live in this place, then you need to try and find somewhere close to you. So
that person, yeah.
Right. So Two Fly, for example, would not work for somebody. I don't know anybody north of Fort Lauderdale. Right? So yeah. But what you said is very true. Condition of the facilities, the condition of the aircraft, and their history and this type of thing. All of that plays a part. But everybody has a history. I mean, I don't know that this was Wayman's first accident, for example. The airplane that I did my multi-engine training on in Pompano Beach crashed last year.
Wow.
So things happen. What you have to also take away from this unfortunate accident that happened with Mark is that this is what we face. on a daily basis, right? Especially if you're flying a single engine plane, right? You know, it is a possibility, you know, and it's unfortunate when it happens. But one thing I take from incidents like this is that we know. I didn't know the young man, right? Maybe you did. I'm sure quite a few of the people on the chat group that we're a part of, a lot of them knew him.
Know him,
But I look at it this way: it happened, but he was doing what he loved.
True.
You know, and not a lot of us get to do that.
To do that, yeah.
Right. So as difficult as it is, a difficult time as it is for all of us with the loss of Mark, just remember that, you know, and my hope with regards to Rachel is that she finds the strength to get back in the cockpit and fly that airplane. Right. I hope that is my hope for her. I don't know her either. It turns out that I am very close with part of Mark's family. Okay. So I've been back and forth. As a matter of fact, I believe it. I don't know how many of you know Jeremy Mullins. It is Jeremy Mullins' cousin. You know. So you know. So I was on the phone with Jeremy's sister for a long period of time. I think the day after the accident, and I kind of had this conversation with her about, you know, he was doing what he loved. He knows the risks. He knew the risks, right? And this is not a, you know, it's not a question of when your engine is going to fail, or if an engine will fail. It's when an engine will fail. You know, so you know he did what he loved. He was doing what he loved. It hard, yes, but you know, at least he never did walking across the street, which is what happened to another former Air Jamaica captain a couple of weeks ago that we just heard about as well. A very beloved captain retired captain from Air Jamaica. Again in Florida, walking across the street and somebody came down and killed him. You know, that rougher for me.
True.
You know? So anyway.
That's true.
But anyway, but you know.
The Richard 7036. I am just over 40 and about to get my PPL, but would love to do island hopping. So basically working to that, hopefully flying for DHL. I guess one of the DHL caravans, or
right.
So like in the Bahamas or the Bahamian Islands, I guess.
Yeah, like I said earlier, the Caribbean islands is where people might have to look, particularly, you know, Caribbean people who don't have no work papers or don't have the ability to work in the States might have to look towards that.
Towards that, yeah. Reality.
Yeah.
Bradley James, big up Bradley.
Big up
he was
yourself,
saying
Brad.
that no cadet training for non-nationals at Emirates.
Yeah.
Bradley's currently at Emirates, so he would know.
Yeah. Bradley's another success story. I mean, Bradley, you know, was flying for.
I hope he knows, so we're coming for him next. Coming for him next, trust me.
Yeah, man. Bradley, you know, as many of you may know, flew with Tara for a while, and then was with Skyline flying that I forget the name of the aircraft that Skyline was flying when just after around the time when the hurricane, the earthquake lick Haiti. He was doing a lot of he and Peter West were doing a lot of relief flights back and forth there. And then he got on with Cal and then went to Fly Dubai for a while, got his upgrade at Fly Dubai. And then the opportunity came at Emirates to fly a big plane. So he's now at Emirates, first officer at Emirates, doing very well for himself.
Yeah. There's so many questions coming in, I don't even know where to start.
Just pick one.
All right, let me start with okay, some of these are statements. Same Richard, I live in Toronto. I would love for you guys to meet with an organization named Urban Pilot Network. Yeah, man, no problem. Send us a DM with some information. See what we can do. I'm looking for a lot of these are statements. This person asks 876 pilot for the local Jamaican operators. Where would I be able to find a professional email to send in my resume? Well, in Jamaica currently, the only thing that's right now booming is corporate aviation. A lot of businesses are utilizing corporate aviation, especially in a time like now, when the airlines are not operating in and out of the island. Corporate may be the first to pick up and move around the business people to get the economy back up and running. So there's Airways International. You can send it to operations at airwaysintl.com. And then they'll look at it, keep it on file. There's no jobs currently that I'm aware of, but you never know. Anything can happen. Just like that. So send it in just the same.
Yep. You have to find me at work first so I can come home, yeah?
Yeah, man, I have you in mind, man. I have you in mind, trust me.
See, it's a commitment. The
Russian says
SDs.
that's why I can't wait.
Go ahead.
No, this person, Russian, said that's why I can't wait to stop flying single engine. Too risky. I mean, listen, it's risky, but it's flying. It's a plane. Once it's maintained properly, and you as a pilot are, properly trained, even if the plane malfunctions, with the right training, I mean, it should be fine. Either way, should be, because not every scenario is the same. The wind can just drop off, and you can't do nothing about it.
It's just like your car. Your car can break down just so. It's just that when we broke down, we're a certain altitude above the ground, and we can't just pull up on the side of the road. But like I said, singular. I mean, unfortunately, Mark's accident was in a twin.
Twin, exactly.
So it can still happen. You know what I mean?
I mean, and it's just like me. I don't really like flying the singles as well, but I have flown the 182 and the 206 overseas, back and forth between Kingston and the United States a couple of times, and sometimes I'm up there and like, what the hell am I doing? But it's flying. The plane needs to be flown, and as well as experience for me.
Yeah.
So the most I know what we do is prepare as best as possible. So we have a life raft, and we have our survival kits. We have our backup radios. Ziploc plastic bags. We have people on the ground that is monitoring. So if anything happens, they know how to respond, and just pretty much another set of eyes looking over us. So I mean, we prepare as best as possible, but it's just one of those things. I have another question. I know I'm late to the discussion, but I am about to finish.
I was just about to say
hear me?
that. I'm still hearing you. No, I'm not here.
Yeah, what were you saying?
Yes. No, I was saying that talking about commitment to the mission. This guy, this person, I don't know if it's a guy or a girl, SDC Hamilton, says he or she used to drive from Mobile to Kingston to fly every weekend. So you see what I mean? That that guy want to fly.
Yeah.
Lawrence Bailey is saying financial stability of the flight school is also important. Well, I don't know how
True,
you'd
but then
know that.
how would you know if they're financially stable? I don't know.
I don't think anybody's gonna tell you that they're not.
True.
When they're trying to get you to come,
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh yeah, the Jetstream. Bradley's saying that I was trying to remember the type of airplane Bradley used to fly for Skyline. Bradley and Peter West. Jetstream 32. Yeah. Yeah, man. I know I'm late to the discussion, but I'm about to finish my degree in geography at UWI and looking for a possible next step in pursuing aviation. Talk. Some can point in the right direction, or in many directions.
What was that question? I'm looking around for the possible next step in pursuing aviation. It all depends if you want to fly, or it all depends which career field in aviation that you want to go into. If you want to fly, there are no flight schools currently. I know CATC are trying to get back up and running. I know the Aeronautical Club of the West Indies are trying to start a school as well with a 152, a Cessna 152 that they have. So, and as well as Caribbean Aerospace College, they are trying to bring up back their flight school. At least they're not doing any degree programs as far as I know, but they're trying to bring up back the flight training side of it.
Okay. Okay.
The next question is for you.
Which one that? Would I ever consider coming back home? I look at it.
Yeah.
Always looking for a reason to come back home, as long as I can feed my family. I mean, that is the reason I left Etihad. I didn't have to leave Etihad. I wasn't forced to leave Etihad to come to fly Jamaica, but I wanted to come home. As much as I'm grateful for the job that I have now, you know, this is not necessarily where I want to be. I want to be home. So yes, I am always interested in finding a way back home. Where I don't know about the instructing thing, because I never did instruct back in my training days. So as far as a retirement job is concerned, again, as long as we can feed my family, and bearing in mind that I still have one son that have to go through university, so I need to pay for that.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Looking for another question.
Did she do me say I go buy a jet stream 32? Good for you, buddy. Peter Ramsey said 206 now brought down. Yeah, single engine over water. Yeah, thing there. Ramon can tell you about that. He recent, what was it last year in Flyer 152 down to Jamaica from Florida.
Ramon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ramon. I think he was one who ferried that same plane that the aeronautical guys are using. He was one who brought it down.
Right.
And then TAT actually has a 152 as well, but that hasn't flown since he came. The late Everton Campbell, aka Streets, he was the one who brought that plane to Jamaica as well.
Okay. Hang on a second. Rene K. JFK. I worked on American 331 that overshoot in Norman Manley. When you say you worked on it, what do you mean by that, miss? When you say
probably she was cabin crew, who knows? Or a mechanic.
Well, I don't gather she works. I think, yeah, aren't you the one that worked ground on JFK that I only just started following the other day?
But that flight came from Miami.
Well, she might have been in Miami at the time.
Maybe.
Context. Please provide some more information, Renee. Whether by DM or otherwise.
Oh, hold on. I had another interesting question. Jordan RR says, do you guys think it's better to go to college and study aviation, like, for example, Florida Tech, or go to the pilot school route? Which one would you recommend?
That is, again, up to you and your resources. Getting an aviation degree as well, you can, there are many options that I believe FIT offers, and Lawrence Bailey can shed some more light on that. You can do your aviation degree with your piloting as well, or you can do them separate. That is really up to how much money you have to spend. I would say if you have the opportunity to go to school and do it, then I would go that route first if you can. That's the sensible answer. Especially now where jobs are kind of, short at the moment. So yeah, it's always good to have a piece of paper behind your name. We had spoken earlier about that. I mean, even if it's a degree in botany, right? Companies in the US like to see some sort of piece of paper behind your name. It don't mean nothing as far as I'm concerned, unless it is in aviation. But they don't even care whether it's in aviation or not, it seems. Maybe they will look
or
at you a
not.
little more favorably. But the bottom line is that if you go into an interview with a piece of paper behind your name versus me who don't have a piece of paper behind my name, you are going to get the nod over me. If assuming we both have the same amount of experience
Funny you said that,
or lack thereof.
funny you said that because there was a situation recently where a friend of mine applied to Cal for the job when they took in the last batch. And then a club
Right.
member, I told him about the opening as well, and he applied. But the difference is that they both have the same type of credentials behind their name, but one has a degree from Florida Tech while the other doesn't have a degree. But their flying credentials in terms of hours and experience is the same. Now I'm thinking, why would they take a particular person over the other? And the only explanation I have is a degree. The person has a degree over the other one that doesn't.
Right.
So it is reality these days.
The point is that there are lots of pilots out there looking work. So they need to find something to differentiate one guy with the other. If the Toya have 500 hours,
Marketing.
what does this guy have over this guy with the 500 hours? This guy have the piece of paper and this guy doesn't, then that's going to be the deciding factor.
True. Kimon asks, do you have to be a citizen of the countries in the Middle East to fly there? No. In the US, you have to, but in the Middle East,
in the US, you need to have the ability to work, whether it be work visa or green card or citizenship. Now, there are very few companies who are going to look about a work visa for you when there are thousands of pilots out there looking work. That is my view on it. Now, I hear that there's one company or two companies out there that are offering work permits. I don't know which companies those are, but my view is, why would I, as an employer, why would I go through the hassle of looking about a work visa for you, a foreigner,
when there are
thousand other Americans looking for work? Yeah. So that's where that is concerned. And the local banks in Jamaica, see if they can come with some finance program. I don't know how to answer that one.
There's a lot of talks going on about that one, but I mean, when they think of pilots, they think of pilots as getting what them getting and run gone all over the world and do what they want to do. So they're very sketchy about it. And then the amount of money, especially with the foreign exchange. 40,000 US in Jamaica is probably like 5-6 million, if not more.
Right.
So it's not like a student loan where you borrow $2 million and you have a 4-year degree type of thing,
Yeah. So what I'm talking about here, Brittany says her degree is in IT. But IT might help you in a 320.
Yeah.
How long do you think before demand for pilots start to pick up again? That's a very good question. I cannot answer it.
Play by ear.
Did you try to get into Emirates as a direct entry captain? No. With the early Airbus time, because I had no desire. This is from KF Loken. Did you try to get into Emirates for direct entry captain with all the Airbus time that you had, considering you had already worked at Etihad? No, I did not. Because I was not interested in a full-time job. When I say full-time job, I was looking for a commuting contract, which is what I'm on now. If you work for Emirates, up until recently, they have this commuting contract, I think, for the cargo pilots on 777. Other than that, you would be required to live in Dubai. I've been there, done that. I have no desire to uproot my family again. I mean, push come to shove, if there was no other option, it is what it is. You'd have to do what you have to do.
Yeah.
Right? Which is basically what happened to me when Air Jamaica fired me. Right? But as long as there were options for a commuting contract, I was going to lean that way. Not that I have anything against Emirates, but my wife says she's done with the Middle East. So she's not going back. right? Not now, not until my younger son is out of the house or can fend for himself, but we're not uprooting everything to move again. So when it's just me and she, then we can talk about, because we get rid of them youth a long time. So as soon as that can happen, we can travel the world.
Yeah.
And my degree, Antonia Lawrence, my degree is in engineering. Good degree to have. Good degree to have. Can you recommend any good schools in Canada? Not a clue. Don't know anything about Canada.
No clue either. I know there are a few aviation universities in Canada that have very good flight schools. So if you can find those universities, of course there'll be a link to the flight schools. So you'd have to find those.
A friend of mine did there was some school or college up in some boondock place. I can't remember the name of the place, way up north in Canada. I can't remember now. Worked as a subject matter. Oh, Renee's answering my question. Worked as a subject matter expert for aviation. Met with JCA, provided with an ATC analysis. Oh, okay. So that's what you mean when you worked it. Okay, cool.
And Richard said that Tate said that she was a part of the investigation
Ah,
accident.
okay. That another degree that got me the job that pays for my flying seat. There you go, Brittany. You do what you gotta do. Yes, aviation industry is garbage. Okay. What is the most flights I've had in a day? Four. Four? Yeah, four. Four flights in a day, Jaden. Cape Air. Oh, Jason, is that the company in the US that giving out work permit?
I know
Yeah,
Air
Air Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
I did hear about Air Wisconsin.
All right, so we were answering questions. I know some of the questions gone, but
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could remember any of them. I want to say though that despite the technical difficulties we've been having, this has been fun.
it has better than I expected.
Yeah, it's
And I
really been
mean,
fun.
a lot of others from the network, like Lawrence and Bradley and Richard Tate and Brittany, and a few others that have joined in as well, has given their little piece as well, which has been helpful.
Yeah, man.
And there's some very good questions too. It just shows you that there are people out there that needs some sort of guidance. How do I do things? What's the best way to do it? Where can I get some help? Stuff like that. So, you guys, you can ask the questions again. We're just going to try and do this one more time.
Yeah, this is the last time. Let us just say that thank you very much for this. Thank you everybody for joining, right? But if we get cut off without saying the thank you, let's do the vote of
Do
thanks
it from
now.
yeah, because we have gotten into the meat of the discussion really. So we're just doing the brata,
Yeah. I mean,
answering questions.
we've been at this for over 2 hours, Sammy.
Oh, really? It has been that. I didn't even notice. You're right. It's actually 3 p.m. Jamaica time now.
Exactly. Could you shed some light on the scholarship that you guys offer and become a member of education?
So
Or
we
member?
spoke about it earlier. So pretty much the scholarship program that we started, which is our own scholarship program, the Jeffrey Meeks and the Christopher Reed Scholarship. Information on that will be posted on June 1st. And then the scholarships will be awarded on October 19th this year. So look out for more information. But other than that, the other scholarships are with partnering institutions like Florida Tech and Fly. And the new school will be Epic Flight Academy. So you can check out those schools once you apply. I mean, Florida Tech sees that you're from Jamaica and you're applying to the college, you're going to ask you, are you a member of the Aviation Club of Jamaica? If you say yes, I mean, some people will try and cheat their way through it and say yes, they are, just to get the benefits, but they're going to come back and say, okay, you need to provide the prerequisites to prove your case, and then of course you'll get to benefit from the scholarship program. But other than that, the other programs are not really scholarships. It's more like a discount of $10,000 or more at the Two Fly School in Merritt Island. And we're actually going to do a live, not a live, we're going to have a online club meeting with these institutions so that they can answer all of your questions, provide all of the information that you need. All right. There's a next question that popped up. I think this is your friend Martin JFS66.
Yeah.
What are the best things about the 757/767 and likewise the 320?
I don't know why Martin asked me them questions. You know the answer to that question, Martin. There's no comparison between the 757 and a 320.
Martin doesn't want to be left out.
Martin, you see, it's all right. Martin, unfortunately, Martin had to kind of give in and go 777 because he wasn't getting on 380 and them was them park all the 340s. He was an instructor on 340 and 330. They parked the 340s, they were scaling back and about to sell off all the 330s. So he was, so his choice was either going 320 or 777, and he chose 777. So, you do what you gotta do because nobody really wants to be an instructor on 320 because 320 work is difficult work.
Okay. I thought it was the easiest of the work.
No, because you see, here's the difference between long haul or medium haul and short haul. Short haul, you're doing this a lot. Back and forth. You say on 330 and 340 and 777, for the most part, you fly to your destination, you get off and go to the hotel.
Okay.
And the next day, you get back on the airplane, you fly one leg, and you come home. 320, back and forth. So nobody who has had the life of wide body want to go narrow body. It's not in their best interest.
It's actually a nice plane. I've flown the 320 sim with JetBlue. We had a club trip to JetBlue and they took us in and they put us on the seat, man, for about 2 hours. You could not get me up out of that seat. It was a lot of fun.
I'll tell you another story with Jason. Jason, who is asking how do you join the aviation club? Send them a DM, aviationclubjam.com. Is that go?
Yeah.
You can join.
DM it on IG.
Or DM.
Is that Mile High Man?
Correct.
Mile High. Okay, I see it.
Are the scholarships only for Jamaicans?
Are the scholarships only for Jamaicans? Well, that's a very good question. The scholarships are for club members, but if they are Jamaicans or not, no. I'm going to say no. Because whether Jamaicans or not, it's for pretty much anybody who wants to get in the industry. We have made it available for our Jamaicans, but of course, if somebody comes in and needs the same assistance like what we are giving to our Jamaican nationals, then I don't think we would turn anybody away. Just like how at first our core focus was our high school members, but then there were adults and university students who needed the same platform because they too wanted to get into the industry. So we're not going to turn anybody away, in all honesty.
Okay.
Martin said he had asked a question for others.
Oh, is that?
Richard 736 says he loves the feel of the control column as opposed to the side stick. I imagine he's talking about the yoke in compared to the side stick.
Sure, knock yourself out, buddy. You want to do this and can't eat your food? Here's my thing. Here's my thing, right? You see, you remember when I was in school, I used to go to a house party and them serve food, and I go down and you sit down on the curb wall outside of the house and have the plate on your knee and you eat, right? That is Boeing living, right? That is Boeing living, right? You see, here I pull out my tray, I rest my food on my tray, and I eat like civilized human beings. Okay? That's what I tell people the Boeing is a man's airplane. You have to grab the thing and you have to, Airbus, gentleman's airplane. You sit back and you hold on to your stick and you just do your thing.
Finesse.
Right? Finesse. Gentleman's airplane. Airbus for life.
Yeah. Any more questions, guys, before we go? I don't see any more questions. So Martin, come back to his senses now. Boeing's automation is not as accurate nor as intuitive as the bus.
Yeah, man. See? Proper airplane. I see you, Dustin. Dustin was one of our cabin crew at Fly Jamaica. Come outside and he's standing up with us in the galley. Roger and that day.
Zachary, have a question. Anywhere / anyone I can go to get / pay for a flight here in Jamaica. So the other aeronautical club, if that's the correct name, they have access to a Cessna 152, which is not flying now, hasn't been flying for months. You can go to them, even though I don't think the airplane is airworthy at this point. However, in the near future, very near future, we will be having our own airplane as well to serve that same purpose. And it's the planes you used to fly to, Richie. I don't want to give out too much.
Okay.
But it's one of the airplanes that I used to fly that we're working to get airworthy and put to work. So when you come home, whenever that is, just give me a call and we'll see what we can work out.
Yeah. I'll fly that airplane there again and brother.
Whichever one it is, I can.
Whichever one it is.
But yeah, Richie said Peter Tate said Peter in here and Richie fight with Brock. Who is Peter?
Peter Ramsey. Peter Ramsey is back in here. I didn't see him log back on. What him I gonna cost me for now? What him I gonna fight for?
I guess the whole Boeing and Airbus thing.
Oh well, yeah, no. Peter has always been a Boeing man. Well, him don't know no better.
Any more questions, guys? Whatever happened to 6 Charlie Hotel? That airplane was sold Manny Duhaney. That airplane is no longer in Jamaica. It was sold by the flight school.
6 Charlie Hotel?
Yeah, man,
that was CATC's airplane.
Colors. Yeah.
Okay. International Women. Ariane, what I go on? I can't follow. We're not talking drums.
Okay.
Nice to see you, Ariane.
But thank you for joining, nevertheless.
Yes, indeed. If you haven't flown both Boeing and Airbus fly-by-wire, I can't talk. Exactly. I'm waiting for a 78 man to say something.
Mile High, that's your contact. Are there any flight school in Jamaica now? There are flight schools, but they are not active. So I don't know if I should say flight school. I just know they're not active. CATC isn't active. CAC isn't active. Navier Jamaica. Well, I don't even know if I should have mentioned them, but
Navier.
Yeah, it's a name. I'm not even gonna say a school.
Oh no! Didn't think they used to work there. Dwayne Wilson.
Dwayne Wilson was actually the chief pilot there. But that was for a short period of time. They were the ones who first had 6 Yankee Juliet Romeo.
Yeah, but I know the owner of that plane.
They never did any flight training whatsoever since started.
Yeah.
Hi,
Misha.
What do you think about the A320?
Sorry, say that again?
200 LR. The A321-200 LR. Somebody was asking what you think about that.
It's an Airbus. It's an Airbus that have extra tanks. That's all it is. It's still an Airbus. It's still a 321. It's going to have limitations.
Yeah.
I've not read up the specs on that particular airplane, but it's gonna be a 321. It's gonna be basically the same length. It's gonna have additional center tanks for the long range part of it, I guess. It's a game changer. You think so? I don't know. Maybe it will be. I
Just
mean, you know,
extra range, that's all.
I guess.
A little longer.
But you know, again, I haven't read the specs on the on the LR or the XLR that Jason is mentioning here. He would know more. Clearly, he has read up more about it than I do. You know, you're going to be limited on something if you put more gas into an airplane with an all-up weight that doesn't change much, then you're going to be able to you're only going to be able to carry X amount of passengers. So I don't know. He just wrote a paper on it. There you go. Well, he's the man you need to ask. Ask Jason. Jason is doing his master's in aviation, something in aviation right now. So
okay.
So he would know. He would know.
Okay.
He's the person to ask. Forward the paper. I agree, Martin. Forward the paper, make we see it.
Any other questions, guys? Let's take 5 more questions. Let's see if 5 more come up.
You have somewhere to go. Are you hope? Okay. No problem. We've been here a long time.
I still have some rest of the day to do.
I hear you. All right. Well, it's been fun.
It has, honestly. It has been, and I'm hoping to. I mean, like we have the time now to do some more. But as I said, you were the first, and as a new year story has weight to it because you started late, but did pretty good. Hey, Martin saying thanks, Sam and Richie. No problem, Martin. Thanks for joining us as well.
Yeah, man, thanks for being here. And again, to Martin and Jason, you guys got me started on this journey, so big up.
Yeah.
How do you find ATC in Saudi Arabia? It's okay.
I guess a broken English annoys you. It would annoy me.
It's well, I'm accustomed to it by now. It's not. It don't really have anything to do with that. It's just that they're not. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. They're just not that active. The Jamaican ATC. Let me explain it to you, Tate. Right? I will check in at a boundary, and the man say, when you reach the other boundary, check in with the next man. Basically, don't talk to me again. Don't call us. We'll call you. That is how ATC work to Saudi Arabia. You check in at one point. They know you check in, flyer deal so and so at so and so. It's a Roger that at this point call that guy.
Okay.
Whereas everywhere else in the world, them say, all right, Roger. And then when you're approaching the boundary, them say, all right, flyer deal, talk to this man now. No, them tell you that from an hour before.
Oh, okay.
Right? When you get to that point, you call him. That's it. So they're very into their ATC here. No, I'm really into them, nothing else. What do you think about Lufthansa retiring most of the 3-4? Go ahead.
No, I was about to say that I can't imagine listening to the broken English in a busy environment and then having to say again. I can just imagine how annoying that would be. Like somebody bad me have FXT because of that.
Oh, really? Look, everybody in aviation have to have a level 4 English, okay? So the English isn't so bad that you can't understand them. It's just a different accent. It's like going to certain places in the US and you probably can't understand him. Somebody from the South with a very strong accent, you probably not going to understand him. So it's the same type of thing. Everybody, every country you go to, it's a certain level that you have to deal with. So it's not that we don't understand what they're saying. You just have to get used to the accent. So it's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
Okay.
What is this person asking me now? Young and affluent. What do you think about the Lufthansa retiring most of the 340s? Well, yeah, all of us are sad about that. Martin had to fly at least Etihad's 340 and park it. That must have been hard. Would love to have you guys come to
And then
Toronto and visit.
so I think South Africa Airways retired theirs as well because difficult times. So
I think so, yeah. And there are a couple of South Africans that are in my batch here.
okay.
Nice interview. Thank you, sir. Whoever mentioned Toronto Herbal, please drop me a DM. Okay, so who was that guy?
That was Richard
Richard
7036.
7036.
Yeah.
Please send that message to Martin JFS 66, please. He's very interested. He has contacts, he has connections in Canada as well.
Yeah, send us a DM also, please, so that we can get some information about that.
Yeah. Let's see.
All right, last question, guys, before we go.
One more.
I don't see any more.
Yeah. All right.
I don't see any more. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. And again, thanks, Captain, for tuning in as well. And for those listening, we're going to have a few more as we go along. Remember, the podcast is this Friday, and we are actually going to be having a club meeting this week as well, a virtual club meeting. But I have to finalize a few more things and then have to send out that information later on today, which is, of course, one of the reasons why I have to
leave.
finish up with here. So thanks again for listening, and I believe we did save the video, so we'll try and post on YouTube later on today. But thanks again, Captain, and of course we'll be in touch as always.
Yeah, man, always. And heal up all them guys for me. Back at Airways for me, Mr. Reed. Sean, when you talk to him, we mentioned Sean earlier. I have a picture somewhere. I have to go dig it down with me and Sean in I think it was Delta Kilo on a flight when I was back when.
Really?
Yeah, man.
You have to send that to me.
I can't. You probably can't see. I don't know.
You have to send that to me, man. I would love to see that. But Sean is a good chap as well.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can still hear you. I think he may have it.
Sean?
Yeah. I think Sean have it somewhere.
He's a very good chap as well. I mean, unfortunately with his incident, when he was coming up as a pilot, but trust me, he has taught me a lot and has looked out for me a lot as well, just as Chris Reed and Jeffrey Meeks has, and these guys have. So, a lot of respect out to him as well. I mean, it's because of somebody like him. When I fly overseas and one and two things go wrong, it's because of the network that he has, that I've been a part of, and the training that he has given me and all of that allowed me to know how to help myself on the ground, and sort certain things out. So I remember going to a conference once and they said, Sean Shorter? And I'm like, yeah, I work alongside him, and totally different respect was given, both to him and to myself as well, seeing that I was working alongside him. So I know I shout out to a lot of other people, but just wanted to give him a shout out as well.
Yeah, man. Good. Is that good better that? All right. So like I said, heal up all of them people for me, and we'll catch up again soon. All right, brother. Peace.
All right, Captain. Take care.
Yeah, man.